what to do in this and this position?
I will play knight to f6.
No, definitely not. The queen will checkmate you, bro. The early queen attacks might be very stressful for beginner players, for example. Because obviously the queen is the most powerful piece on the board and it can go almost everywhere. But at the start of your game, you can see that each of your pieces are defended, so you don't need to worry about that. Queen attacks are very short term. Okay, so let's say that your opponent plays e4. I play pawn to e5, and then he goes with queen h5. Okay, now we need to break down what's going on. Is he attacking me and where? Everything is protected here, here, and maybe not here. Yeah, that's true. So, how can we defend it? Well, we can play pawn to d6, but it blocks our bishop and it's a bit passive. Maybe we can kick the queen out. Queen e5, bishop e7, and we are losing a rook. So remember, he's just waiting. It's a trap. He's just waiting for you to play g6 and lose the rook. So what is the best move? Knight to c6. We develop a piece, we protect the pawn, and we fight for the center. So everything is nice. Your opponent plays bishop to c4, attacking you. And now, what can we do right now? Obviously we can defend with our queen, maybe to f6, but then it blocks the knight. If we go to e7, it blocks the knight, and the knight. So the queen isn't probably the best option. So one move ago, you couldn't play g6. It would be a huge blunder. But in this case, it is the best move. Your opponent cannot take now, because you have developed your piece. And you will take back the queen and win the game. Let's say your opponent really wants to checkmate you on f7. What do you do right now? You develop the piece while defending the threat, which is knight to f6. Easy, yeah? It's the simplest move, just knight to f6. What might he play right now? Maybe pawn to d3. Seems like a good option. Develops the bishop. But now we are going with knight to d4, attacking the queen and the c2 pawn. And also, the best square for the knight is always an outpost defended by the pawn. Your opponent will have to play queen to d1. Otherwise, you just take on c2, winning the rook. So as we can see, the queen made 1, 2, 3 moves and ended up in the same position. They could have played knight to f3, knight to c3 and bishop to g5, for example. And then they would have better development than us. So, please keep in mind that the opening is a race. Whoever has the best development wins the game. If your opponent attacks you with the queen, defend yourself. Like you can accumulate the power defending and then push all of the power attacking the queen with tempos. You know what I mean? I hope you do. So now let's hop into the game. e4 and e5. Very good move, fighting for the center. And queen to h5. As we can see, it already says the question mark and the exclamation mark. It is not a good move. So we play knight to c6, the best move in the position. Bishop c4. Very aggressive player. To be fair, in the past, in my first tournament, I played 6 games and won 5. The game that I lost was lost in the Scholar's Mate. So pawn to g6, queen to f3, the same thing as we saw in the example. Knight to f6, putting the pressure onto the e4 pawn. Knight to e2, why? Because he protects the d4 square. Very smart boy. And pawn to d3. Nah. Pawn to d6, knight to c3, bishop to g4, attacking the queen one more time, queen to g3, and knight to b4. The queen is far away from the camp, so the only defense is bishop b3. But now we play bishop to e6, trying to deflect the bishop. If he takes, we will take on c2, and we will be winning the game. So he played a3, trying to get the knight out. We took on b3. We traded the bishop for a knight, and we got one more additional pawn. This bishop is very annoying when it just gets the pawns from the behind. So castles, bishop to g5. That is a very good move, because we are putting the pressure onto f6 square, and yeah, black should now run away as fast as possible from the pin. After knight d5 they might take, because if they don't do it, if they play pawn to b6, white plays knight to d5, and they cannot run away, because after you play queen d7 they will just take. Pawn to c6, defending the d5 square, but in my opinion you need to play more with the pieces rather than pawns, so queen d7 would be better. Our knight is still pinned. But rook to c1, I don't know, I feel like this rook on a1 was better than the rook on c1. Bishop b3, f4, and queen to b6. And now we can see that the opponent didn't have time to defend the king, and we are just winning tempos. Knight to h5, attacking the queen one more time, and taking on f4. Queen to b4, bishop to f6, and now this actually gives black minus 3.2. We take, and play bishop e6, because after rook h4 you might play pawn to h5 and defend with the pawn and the rook. White played pawn to e5 and black took.